The rain hammered against the cracked windows of St. Vincent's abandoned hospital like bullets against steel. It was 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in October, and the building, condemned 3 years ago by the city of Newark, New Jersey, had become something else entirely, something the authorities pretended not to know about. Enzo Morelli pushed through the rusted side entrance, his Italian leather shoes splashing through puddles mixed with God knows what. 2 of his men flanked him, Marcus on the left, Joey on the right. Both had their hands hovering near their waistbands, fingers ready to grip the cold metal beneath their jackets. "Boss, Sal's in the second room on the right," Marcus muttered, his Brooklyn accent cutting through the sound of rain. "Doc says the bullet went clean through. He'll live." Enzo didn't respond. His jaw was set like concrete, his dark eyes scanning every shadow. At 42 years old, he'd learned that hospitals, even illegal ones, were where men were most vulnerable, where rivals saw opportunities. The hallway reeked of disinfectant, barely masking the stench of blood and desperation. Flickering fluorescent lights created a strobe effect that would have driven a normal person mad. But Enzo Morelli wasn't normal. He was the man who'd united 5 crime families under one iron fist, the man whose name made grown men cross themselves and pray. They passed the first room. Inside, a man Enzo didn't recognize was being stitched up by a doctor who'd lost his license for selling prescriptions. The next room held Sal, one of his best soldiers, pale but conscious, being worked on by the same underground surgeon who'd saved Enzo's life twice before. "Don Morelli," the doctor acknowledged without looking up from his work. "He'll need 2 weeks minimum. No heavy lifting, no. He'll get whatever time he needs," Enzo interrupted. "Money isn't the issue. His survival is." That's when he heard it. A child's voice, small and frightened, echoing from somewhere deeper in the building. "Mommy, please wake up. Please." Enzo's head turned sharply. Marcus and Joey immediately tensed, hands moving to their weapons. But Enzo raised one finger, a silent command that froze them in place. He'd built his empire on reading situations, on sensing when danger lurked and when something else was happening. He moved toward the sound, his footsteps deliberate despite the water on the floor. The hallway stretched into deeper darkness, leading to a section of the hospital that clearly wasn't used for his operations. This was something else, someone else's territory within the building. The voice came again. "Mommy, the bleeding won't stop." Enzo rounded the corner and stopped. In a small alcove lit by a single battery-powered lantern sat a woman and a boy. The woman was slumped against the wall, her blonde hair matted with a mixture of rain and blood. Her left eye was swollen completely shut, the purple bruising spreading across her cheekbone like spilled wine. Her lower lip was split, still bleeding. Her arms were wrapped around herself, and even in the dim light Enzo could see the finger-shaped bruises on her pale skin. The boy, no more than 5 years old, was pressing an old, dirty handkerchief against his mother's nose, trying desperately to stop the bleeding. His small hands were shaking. His own face was streaked with tears, but his eyes held something Enzo recognized immediately. Determination. The kind that came from being forced to grow up too fast. "Mommy, I need you to wake up," the boy whispered, his voice cracking. The woman stirred slightly, her good eye opening. When she saw her son's face, she tried to smile, though it clearly caused her pain. "I'm okay, baby. Mommy's okay." She was lying. Even from 10 feet away, Enzo could see she was anything but okay. That's when her eye shifted and found him standing there in the shadows. A man in a $1,000 suit, soaked from the rain, watching them like some kind of dark guardian angel. Most people, when they saw Enzo Morelli, immediately looked away. Fear was the natural response to his presence. But this woman didn't look away. She met his gaze with something he couldn't quite identify. Not fear, not defiance. Something calmer, more resigned, as if she'd already seen the worst the world could offer, and a stranger in the shadows didn't register as a threat anymore. "We don't want any trouble," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "We'll leave." She tried to stand, wincing with obvious pain. The boy immediately tried to help her, his small body straining under her weight. Enzo found himself moving forward before his brain fully processed the decision. "Stay," he said, his voice coming out rougher than intended. The woman froze. The boy's eyes went wide with fear. Enzo held up both hands, a gesture he hadn't made in years. I'm not here to hurt you. This building, the doctor here, he works for me. You're safe." "Safe," the woman repeated, and something like a bitter laugh tried to escape her split lip. "No such thing." Enzo moved closer, slowly, the way someone might approach a wounded animal. Now that he was nearer, he could see more details. The bruises weren't new. She had older ones, yellowing around the edges, layered beneath the fresh injuries. This wasn't a one-time incident. This was a pattern. "What's your name?" he asked. The woman's good eye studied him for a long moment. Clara Jensen. "And this is?" "My son, Liam." "Hi," Liam said softly, still clutching the bloody handkerchief. Enzo knelt down, bringing himself to the boy's eye level. Up close, he could see that Liam had a small bruise on his own arm. Defensive wounds, Enzo recognized. The kid had tried to protect his mother. "Liam, that's a strong name," Enzo said. "You take care of your mom?" Liam nodded seriously. "Always. Someone has to." The words hit Enzo like a physical blow. Someone has to. No 5-year-old should have to say those words. He stood and looked at Clara again. "Who did this to you?" Clara's jaw tightened. For a moment she said nothing. Then, with a voice completely devoid of emotion, the kind of flatness that came from saying something that had become truth through repetition, she answered, "My husband thought I deserved it." 4 words. That's all it took. In Enzo's world there were rules, codes, lines that weren't crossed. Women and children were off limits. Always. It was one of the few principles his father had beaten into him, sometimes literally, from the time he was old enough to understand what their family business really meant. "Deserved it," Enzo repeated slowly, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. Clara must have heard the shift in his tone because she immediately tried to backtrack. "It's fine, it's handled. We're leaving town tonight. My sister in Pennsylvania." "Where is he?" "What?" "Your husband. Where is he right now?" Clara's good eye widened slightly. I don't know. Home, probably. Sleeping it off. But please, don't. We just need to disappear. If you do anything, he'll find us. He always finds us." Enzo pulled out his phone. Marcus and Joey had appeared at the end of the hallway waiting for orders. He typed quickly, "Get Vincent. Need a location traced. Now." "What's your address?" Enzo asked Clara. No, please." Clara tried to stand again, nearly falling. Liam grabbed her, his small face twisted in confusion and fear. "You don't understand Derek, my husband. He has friends, police friends. They cover for him. If you do anything, they'll come after you and—" "Mrs. Jensen," Enzo interrupted, his voice soft but absolutely certain. "I promise you, your husband's friends, whoever they are, will not be a problem." Something in his tone made Clara stop protesting. She looked at him, really looked at him, and seemed to see past the expensive suit and the cold demeanor. Whatever she saw made her shoulders slump in exhausted resignation. 1247 Oakwood Avenue, she whispered. Apartment 3B. Enzo typed the address into his phone and hit send. Then he looked back at Clara and Liam, these two broken people huddled in an abandoned corner of a condemned building, and made a decision that would change everything. "You're coming with me." "What?" "No. I can't. You can't stay here, and you can't go home. You said it yourself, he'll find you." Enzo gestured to Marcus. "Get the doctor. I want her checked out properly. Everything documented, photographed, medical report, the works." "Boss," Marcus said slowly. "Are you sure?" "Did I stutter?" "No, sir." As Marcus disappeared to find the doctor, Enzo turned back to Clara. "I have a safe house. Multiple ones, actually. You and your son will stay in one until this is resolved." "Resolved how?" Clara asked, and there was something sharp in her voice now. Fear, yes, but also understanding. She wasn't stupid. She knew what kind of man stood before her. Enzo met her gaze. "Your husband will never touch you again. I promise you that." "You're going to kill him," Clara stated flatly. "I'm going to make sure he understands there are consequences for his actions." "That's the same thing. Mrs. Jensen, I've been many things in my life, but I've never laid a hand on a woman, never harmed a child. Your husband," Enzo's voice hardened, "your husband is going to learn what it feels like to be powerless, to be afraid, to wonder if every shadow holds his end." Liam tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Mommy, I'm scared." Clara pulled her son close, her good eye never leaving Enzo's face. In that moment, some kind of understanding passed between them, an unspoken acknowledgement that sometimes justice and the law weren't the same thing. "Okay," she whispered finally. "Okay." The doctor arrived, a thin man in his 60s with steady hands and no questions. As he began examining Clara, Enzo stepped back into the hallway where Joey waited. "Get a message to Tommy and Frank. I want eyes on 1247 Oakwood Avenue. No one moves until I give the word, understood?" "On it, boss." Enzo pulled out his phone and dialed a number he rarely used. It rang twice before a gravelly voice answered. Morelli, it's late. Vincent, I need you to run a name for me. Derek Jensen, Oakwood Avenue. I want everything. Employment records, financial history, known associates, especially any connections to law enforcement. What's this about? Something personal. There was a pause. Vincent DeLuca had known Enzo since they were teenagers running numbers for Enzo's father. He knew better than to ask twice. Give me an hour. You have 30 minutes. Enzo ended the call and looked back at the alcove where Clara was being examined. The doctor was speaking softly to her, documenting injuries with a small camera. Liam sat next to his mother, holding her hand, his young face far too serious for his age. Enzo thought about his own childhood, about the father who'd taught him that power was everything, that mercy was weakness, about the mother he'd lost when he was Liam's age, not to violence but to cancer that ate her alive while his father refused to show any emotion at all. Never let them see you care, his father had said at the funeral. The moment they think you have a heart, they'll tear it out. But looking at Clara Jensen and her son, Enzo realized something his father never understood. Having a heart didn't make you weak. Sometimes it made you more dangerous than ever, because now he had a reason to remind this city exactly who he was. The safe house was in West Orange, tucked away in a neighborhood where old money whispered instead of shouted. A 3-story Victorian with iron gates and security cameras hidden in the ornamental garden lights. The kind of place where neighbors minded their own business because they had secrets of their own to protect. Enzo's black Mercedes pulled into the circular driveway at 4:23 a.m. The rain had finally stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflective under the streetlights. Marcus drove while Joey sat in the passenger seat, both men silent. In the back, Clara held Liam against her chest, the boy finally asleep after the doctor had given him a mild sedative to calm his nerves. Clara hadn't said a word during the entire drive. Her face had been cleaned, her wounds properly treated. The doctor had given her pain medication, antibiotics, and a folder full of documentation that could bury her husband in any honest court. But they both knew honest courts were rare when cops were involved. We're here, Enzo said softly, not wanting to wake Liam. Clara's good eye opened. The other was still swollen shut, the bruising now a deep purple-black in the dim light. She looked at the house through the window, her expression unreadable. This is your safe house? She asked quietly. One of them. How many do you have? Enough. She turned to look at him then, really study him. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't know my son. We're nothing to you. Enzo was quiet for a moment, weighing his words. The truth was complicated. The real truth, the one he barely admitted to himself, was that seeing her in that hallway had cracked something open inside him that he'd thought was sealed shut years ago. My mother, he said finally, his voice low enough that Marcus and Joey couldn't hear from the front seats, was beaten by my uncle when I was 7 years old. My father's brother. He came to our house drunk, angry about some business dispute. My father wasn't home. My uncle took it out on her. Clara's breath caught. What happened? I tried to stop him. I was small, weak. He threw me across the room. Enzo's jaw tightened. My mother got between us, told me to run, get help. By the time I came back with my father, my uncle was gone. My mother was unconscious on the kitchen floor. Did she? She survived, but she was never the same. Flinched at sudden movements. Couldn't sleep without nightmares. Enzo looked directly at Clara. My father waited 3 days. Then my uncle disappeared. They found him 6 months later in a landfill in Jersey City. What was left of him? Clara held her son tighter. And you think that was justice? I think some men only understand one language. And I think my mother deserved to feel safe in her own home. Enzo's voice hardened. Your son tried to stop your husband tonight. I saw the bruise on his arm. Defensive wound. He's 5 years old, Mrs. Jensen, and he's already learned that he has to fight battles he can't win to protect you. Tears welled in Clara's good eye. I tried to leave. Twice. The first time, Derek found us at a shelter in Patterson. He had a cop friend track my credit card. The second time, we made it to my sister's in Scranton. He showed up 3 days later with flowers and apologies and a restraining order against me, claiming I'd kidnapped Liam. How did he get a restraining order? His partner on the force, Detective Mike Brennan. They've been friends since high school. Mike testified that I was unstable, a danger to my own child. The judge believed a decorated police officer over a waitress with no money for a real lawyer. Enzo's phone buzzed, a text from Vincent. Got what you need, call me. Wait here, Enzo told Clara. He stepped out of the car, walking far enough away that she couldn't hear. He dialed Vincent's number. "Talk to me." Vincent's voice came through rough and serious. "Derek Jensen, 34 years old. Newark PD, 7 years on the force. 3 complaints filed against him for excessive force. All dismissed. 2 domestic disturbance calls to his address in the past 18 months. Both times his partner Brennan responded and filed no charges. What else? Gets interesting. Jensen's into the department for $43,000 in gambling debts. Underground poker games in Ironbound. He's been bleeding money for 2 years. Who runs those games? Paulie Rizzo." Enzo's eyes narrowed. Paulie Rizzo was small-time, a wannabe who operated on the fringes of real organized crime. The kind of guy who thought being Italian and watching Godfather movies made him connected. Enzo had shut down 3 of his operations in the past year for being sloppy. So Jensen's desperate and violent. Perfect combination. There's more, Enzo. Jensen's got a file, sealed juvie record, but I got a guy who got a look. 2 incidents of assault when he was 17, both against girlfriends. Pattern behavior. And they gave him a badge. Apparently passed the psych eval, or someone made sure he did. Vincent paused. "What are you planning here? Because if you're going after a cop, even a dirty one, it's going to bring heat. Let me worry about the heat. I need you to do something else. Clara Jensen, the wife. I need complete identity packets for her and the boy. New social security numbers, birth certificates, driver's license, the works. Best quality, untraceable. Silence on the other end. Then, you're helping her disappear. Eventually. First, I'm making sure she never has to run again. Enzo, listen to me. You take out a cop, even one on the take, and you'll have every badge in the state looking for a reason to bring you down. Is this woman worth that?" Enzo looked back at the Mercedes where Clara sat holding her sleeping son. He thought about the calm in her eyes despite the pain, the way she'd immediately tried to protect Liam, even when she could barely stand. The resignation in her voice when she said, "My husband thought I deserved it," as if she'd tried to convince herself it was true. "Yes," Enzo said simply. "She is. Get me those documents. I want them in 3 days. You're going soft in your old age, Morelli." "Vincent, when have I ever been soft?" Vincent chuckled darkly. "Fair point. I'll have everything ready. And Enzo, be careful. This one feels different." "Different how?" "Like the kind of thing that changes everything." Enzo ended the call and returned to the car. Marcus had already opened the door, and Clara was carefully climbing out with Liam in her arms. The boy stirred but didn't wake. A woman in her 50s appeared at the front door. Angela Russo, one of the few people Enzo trusted completely. She'd been his family's housekeeper when he was growing up, and now she managed his legitimate properties and occasionally his less than legitimate affairs. "Mr. Morelli," Angela said, her voice warm, but her eyes sharp as they took in Clara's injuries. "I've prepared the guest suite on the 2nd floor. Fresh linens, bathroom stocked with everything she might need." "Thank you, Angela." Enzo gestured for Clara to follow. "Mrs. Russo will take care of you and Liam. Anything you need, you ask her." Clara hesitated at the threshold, looking back at Enzo. "What happens now?" "Now you rest. Heal. Keep your son safe. Let me handle the rest." "The rest being my husband." "Yes. You're really going to kill him, aren't you?" Her voice wasn't accusatory, just tired, seeking truth. Enzo stepped closer, his voice low. "Mrs. Jensen, I'm going to make sure that Derek Jensen understands that there are men in this world who operate outside the protection of a badge, that no amount of cop friends or sealed records will save him from the consequences of putting his hands on you and your son. What happens after that understanding sinks in, we'll see. That's not really an answer. It's the only answer I can give you right now." Angela gently touched Clara's shoulder. "Come, dear. Let's get that boy into a proper bed. You need rest, too." Clara allowed herself to be guided inside, but she looked back once more at Enzo standing in the doorway, this man who'd appeared out of nowhere and upended her entire existence in a single night. "Why?" she asked one more time. "Why do you care?" Enzo thought about his mother's nightmares, about the uncle who'd disappeared into a landfill, about all the years he'd built walls around his heart because caring was weakness, because someone should. He said simply. After they disappeared inside, Enzo turned to Marcus and Joey. "I want rotating surveillance on this house. 8-hour shifts, always 2 men minimum. Nobody gets close without me knowing about it. Consider it done, boss." And Marcus, "Spread the word quietly. Anyone who touches Derek Jensen before I give the order answers to me personally." I want him alive and functional until I decide otherwise. Marcus's eyes widened slightly. You're putting a protection detail on a wife beater? I'm making sure that when he gets what's coming, it happens exactly the way I want it to happen. Control the narrative, control the outcome. You know this. Yeah, boss. I know. Enzo's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered, his voice cold. Who is this? Mr. Morelli? A man's voice, trying to sound tough, but with an edge of nervousness. This is Detective Mike Brennan, Newark PD. I think we need to talk about Clara Jensen. Enzo's expression didn't change, but his eyes went arctic. Detective Brennan, how did you get this number? I'm a detective, it's what I do. Listen, I don't know what Clara told you, but she's unstable. She has a history of... Let me stop you right there, Detective. I've seen the medical reports, the photographs, the pattern of injuries spanning months. So whatever story you're about to sell me about Mrs. Jensen being unstable, save it for someone stupid enough to believe you. Silence. Then Brennan's voice came back harder. You're making a mistake. Derek Jensen is a cop. You touch him and every officer in the state will be looking to take you down. Is that a threat, Detective? It's a promise. Back off. This is a domestic situation, not your business. You made it my business when you helped a violent criminal hide behind a badge. Enzo's voice dropped to something dangerous. Here's what's going to happen, Detective Brennan. You're going to forget you made this call. You're going to forget Clara Jensen's name. And you're going to pray that when I dig into your life I don't find anything interesting. You can't intimidate me, Morelli. I'm not one of your... Vincent, Enzo said, cutting him off. How much does Detective Brennan owe to the Ironbound poker games? Last I heard it was somewhere around 60,000. That's a lot of debt for a cop making 75 a year. The silence on the other end was deafening. Yeah, Enzo continued softly. I thought so. Here's the thing about threats, Detective. They only work when the person making them has more to lose than the person receiving them. You have a wife, 2 kids, a pension you're 4 years away from. I have nothing but time and resources. So ask yourself, do you really want to play this game with me? Derek's my friend. Derek's a wife beater who hides behind you. And you're an accomplice. That makes you just as guilty. Enzo ended the call and immediately dialed Vincent again. 2 calls in 10 minutes must be Christmas. I need everything on Detective Mike Brennan. Everything. Financial records, phone logs, connections. And I want to know everyone he's ever taken money from or done a favor for. I want his life in a file on my desk by tomorrow night. You're going scorched earth on this. They came after someone under my protection. What did you expect? After ending the call, Enzo stood in the driveway for a long moment, looking up at the second-floor window where a light had just turned on. Clara's silhouette appeared briefly. She was standing at the window looking out at the street as if expecting her husband to materialize from the shadows. Even from here, Enzo could see the tension in her posture, the way she held herself like someone expecting the next blow. That was going to change. He'd make sure of it. Marcus approached quietly. Boss, what's the play here, long term, I mean? We can handle Jensen, but then what? She can't stay hidden forever. She won't have to. By the time I'm done, Derek Jensen won't be a threat to anyone. And if he's got the whole department backing him? Enzo smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then I'll remind the department why they don't cross the Morelli family. Newark might not be Naples, Marcus, but the principles are the same. Power respects power. And right now they need to be reminded who really runs this city. Derek Jensen woke up at 11:47 a.m. with a headache that felt like someone had driven railroad spikes through his temples. Sunlight knifed through the gaps in the bedroom blinds, and the apartment smelled like stale beer and the Chinese takeout he'd demolished at 2 a.m. He rolled over, expecting to see Clara's side of the bed empty as usual. She'd learned years ago to sleep on the couch when he came home drunk. But something felt different today. Wrong. The silence was too complete. Clara, he called out, his voice rough. Get in here, I need coffee. Nothing. Derek sat up, wincing at the movement. Fragments of last night came back in flashes. The argument. Clara talking back, actually talking back, saying something about leaving. Him teaching her a lesson about respect. The satisfying crack when his fist connected with her face. Then, nothing. He must have passed out. He stumbled out of bed wearing only boxers and a stained undershirt. The living room was empty. So was Liam's room. Clara's purse was gone from its usual spot by the door. Derek's stomach tightened. Not with guilt. Never guilt. But with anger. She'd run. Again. Stupid bitch, he muttered, grabbing his phone from the nightstand. 17 missed calls. 12 from his partner, Mike Brennan. 5 from unknown numbers. 3 voicemails. He played the first one. Mike's voice came through tight with stress. Derek, call me back. Now. We got a problem. The second message was also Mike. Derek, I'm serious. Pick up your goddamn phone. Clara's gone, and you need to hear what I have to say before you do anything stupid. The third message made Derek's blood run cold. It was a voice he didn't recognize. Deep, calm, with a slight Italian accent that spoke of old-world connections and new-world money. Officer Jensen, you don't know me, but I know you. I know about the complaints buried in your file. I know about the $43,000 you owe to Paulie Rizzo's poker games. I know about the woman you put in the hospital last night, your wife, Clara, and I know that right now you're probably wondering where she is. Derek's hand tightened on the phone. Here's what you need to understand. The voice continued, silky smooth and absolutely terrifying. Clara and her son are under my protection now. That means if you so much as think about looking for them, you'll answer to me. And trust me, Officer Jensen, you don't want that. Consider this your only warning. Disappear from their lives. Permanently. The message ended. Derek stood frozen in his apartment, rage and fear warring inside him. Who the hell was this? Some boyfriend Clara had been hiding? No. She was too scared, too broken to have the guts for an affair. Someone from her family? Her sister in Pennsylvania barely spoke to them. He dialed Mike's number. His partner picked up on the first ring. Derek, Jesus Christ, finally, where have you been? Sleeping, what's going on? Clara's gone and some asshole left me a message about Enzo Morelli. Derek froze. What? Enzo fucking Morelli. That's who has Clara. I don't know how, I don't know why, but somehow your wife ended up under the protection of the biggest crime boss in New Jersey. The name hit Derek like a freight train. Everyone in law enforcement knew Enzo Morelli, the Napolitano who'd taken over his father's operations at 25 and turned a mid-level family into an empire. The man who had judges, politicians, and half the police force in his pocket. The one target the FBI had been trying to nail for 15 years without success. That's impossible. How would Clara even... I don't know and I don't care. What matters is that Morelli called me last night. Me, Derek. He knows about the poker debts. He knows I covered for you on the domestic calls. He knows everything. Mike's voice cracked slightly. He threatened my family, my kids, Derek. So what do? We? There's no we here anymore, man. You're on your own. Mike, come on. We've been partners for 5 years. We've covered each other's backs. And I'm not throwing my career and my family away because you couldn't keep your hands to yourself. Mike's voice rose. I told you, Derek. I told you after the last time that if it happened again, I was done. But you promised. You swore you'd get it under control. She provoked me. She was talking about leaving, taking Liam. I don't care, Mike shouted. I don't care what she said or did. You beat your wife bad enough that Enzo Morelli decided to get involved. Do you understand how badly you screwed up? This isn't some shelter volunteer or social worker we can intimidate. This is a man who makes people disappear. Derek's hand shook. So what, I'm just supposed to let her go? Let some mobster keep my kid? Yes, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Take the out he's giving you. Forget Clara exists. Put in for a transfer, move to another district, and pray Morelli decides you're not worth the bullet. I can't just... You don't have a choice. Derek, listen to me. I made some calls this morning. Quiet ones. The word on the street is that Morelli put protection on Clara. That means anyone who touches her answers to him. But it also means he's watching you, waiting to see what you'll do. Derek sank onto the couch, his mind racing. He'd spent 7 years as a cop learning how to read situations, how to survive in dangerous neighborhoods, and every instinct he had was screaming that Mike was right. Going after Clara now was suicide, but the thought of her out there, free, probably telling stories about him, turning his own son against him, it made his blood boil. There has to be a way, Derek said quietly. Morelli's not untouchable, nobody is. Don't. Derek, I'm begging you as your friend. Don't do something stupid, just let this go. But Derek had already stopped listening. His mind was working through possibilities. Morelli might have resources, but Derek had something too. Knowledge of how the system worked, how to make someone look dangerous, how to build a case. I gotta go, Mike. Derek. He ended the call and immediately started searching his contacts. There had to be someone who could help. Someone who owed him a favor or had their own grudge against Morelli. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Look outside your window. Derek's heart hammered as he moved to the window and pulled back the blinds. Parked across the street was a black Cadillac with tinted windows. As Derek watched, the driver's side window rolled down just enough for him to see the man inside. Big guy, probably 6'4", 300 pounds of muscle. He wore sunglasses and didn't move, didn't gesture, just sat there, watching. The message was clear. You're being monitored. Derek's phone buzzed again. Another text. Every move you make, we know about. Every call you place, we hear. Every plan you try to make, we're already 3 steps ahead. This is your life now until you make the smart choice. Walk away. Derek stumbled back from the window, his breath coming faster. This was wrong. All wrong. He was a cop. He had rights. He had protection under the law. But as he looked around his empty apartment, at the beer bottles on the counter, the hole in the wall from when he'd punched it last month, the framed photo of him and Clara on their wedding day that now seemed like ancient history, he realized something terrifying. The law only protected you if people cared about enforcing it. And nobody was coming to save Derek Jensen. Across town, in a warehouse in the Ironbound district, Enzo Morelli sat in a leather chair reviewing surveillance photos spread across a metal table. Vincent DeLuca stood beside him, along with 2 other men Enzo trusted with his darkest work, Franco and Dominic, brothers who'd been with the family since his father's time. "This is everything on Brennan?" Enzo asked, tapping one of the photos. "Everything that matters," Vincent replied. "Detective Michael Brennan, 15 years on the force. Married to Sarah Brennan, 2 daughters, Melissa, 13, and Katie, 9. Lives in Montclair, modest house, 2 mortgages. On paper, he's clean. But dig deeper." Vincent laid out a series of bank statements. He's been taking regular payments from Paulie Rizzo for 3 years. 500 here, 1,000 there. Usually after he makes a domestic disturbance call disappear, or looks the other way on something in Rizzo's territory. "Sloppy," Enzo muttered. "Desperate. His youngest daughter has a medical condition, juvenile diabetes. Insurance doesn't cover all the treatments. He's bleeding money trying to keep up." Enzo studied the photo of Brennan with his family. The detective was smiling in the picture, his arm around his wife, his daughters grinning at the camera. A normal family. Except the father was corrupt, protecting a wife-beater to keep the money flowing. "I want him to understand something," Enzo said quietly. "I want him to know that I could destroy everything he loves. His career, his reputation, his family's safety. But I'm choosing not to, as long as he stays out of my way. You want us to send a message?" "No. I'll deliver this one myself." Vincent's eyebrows rose. "You're going to meet with him? That's risky, Enzo. Cop meeting with you could be wearing a wire, building a case. Then let him. I haven't said anything illegal yet, and I don't plan to." Enzo stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "Set up a meeting. Somewhere public. Tomorrow, lunch hour. Tell him if he doesn't come alone and clean, his entire financial history gets emailed to Internal Affairs." "Consider it done." Enzo's phone rang. Angela Russo's name appeared on the screen. He answered immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, Mr. Morelli. But Mrs. Jensen would like to speak with you. She's insistent. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The drive back to West Orange was quick at midday. When Enzo arrived, he found Clara in the kitchen with Angela. She'd showered, changed into clothes Angela must have provided. Simple jeans and a sweater. The swelling around her eye had gone down slightly, and someone had helped her apply concealer to some of the bruises. She looked less like a victim and more like a survivor. Liam sat at the kitchen table, coloring in a book Angela had found somewhere. He looked up when Enzo entered and gave a small wave. "Hi, Mr. Morelli." "Hi, Liam. That's a good drawing. Is that a dinosaur?" "It's a T-Rex. They're the strongest." "They are indeed." Clara stood crossing her arms. "We need to talk. Privately." Enzo nodded to Angela, who gently guided Liam toward the living room with promises of cartoons. Once they were alone, Clara turned to face him, and Enzo saw something different in her expression. The resigned exhaustion was gone, replaced by something harder. Determination. "I want to know exactly what you're planning to do to Derek," she said directly. "Mrs. Jensen, Clara, and don't deflect. You've put surveillance on my husband. You've threatened his partner. You've essentially declared war on a police officer. I deserve to know how this ends." Enzo studied her for a moment, then pulled out a chair at the kitchen table and sat. After a pause, Clara sat across from him. "Your husband has 2 choices," Enzo said calmly. "He can walk away, accept that you and Liam are gone, move on with his life and never look back. If he does that, he lives. He keeps his job. He gets to pretend he's still a good guy. And if he doesn't, Then I make him understand that there are consequences for his actions, not through the legal system that's protected him so far, but through channels that are much more persuasive. Clara's jaw tightened. You mean you'll kill him? I mean I'll ensure he's no longer a threat. How I accomplish that depends entirely on his choices over the next few days. This is insane. You can't just... Clara stopped, shaking her head. Who are you? Really? I know you're not just some businessman with safe houses and surveillance teams. Enzo leaned back in his chair. You want the truth? My name is Enzo Morelli. My family has controlled certain business interests in this area for 30 years. Some legal, some less so. I'm what people call a crime boss, though I prefer to think of myself as someone who provides services the legitimate world refuses to acknowledge. You're a mobster. I'm a realist. The world isn't fair, Clara. The system that's supposed to protect you failed. The police covered for your abuser. The courts would take years to help you if they helped at all. So I'm offering you something better. Actual protection. Actual justice. At what cost? No cost to you. This is personal. Clara laughed bitterly. Nothing's free, especially not from men like you. Men like me? Dangerous men. Men who solve problems with violence. You think I haven't seen this before? My father was like you. Different business, same principles, power over everything else. She met his eyes. He died when I was 12. Gunshot wound to the chest in a parking lot. My mother never recovered. The kitchen fell silent. Somewhere in the house, Liam's laughter echoed as he watched cartoons. I'm sorry, Enzo said finally. Are you? Because it seems like you're setting yourself up for the same ending. Perhaps, but at least I'll have done something good first. Clara studied him for a long moment. Why me? Truly, there are hundreds of women in situations like mine. Why did seeing me in that hallway change everything? Enzo considered lying, considered giving her some noble speech about justice or morality. But something about Clara Jensen demanded honesty. Because you looked at me without fear, he said quietly. Everyone looks at me with fear. My enemies, my allies, even people who work for me. But you looked at me like I was just a man, and you held your son with such fierce protection, even though you were bleeding and broken. It reminded me of my mother, of what courage really looks like. Clara's good eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I'm not courageous, I'm terrified. Of Derek, of you, of what happens next. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. Is that what you tell yourself when you do terrible things? Yes, though I admit I've done plenty of terrible things to terrible people. Your husband might soon be one of them. Clara stood abruptly, walking to the window. Outside, the tree-lined street looked peaceful, normal, like violence and danger existed in another world entirely. I don't want you to kill him, she said softly. Even after everything he did to you, I want him to suffer. I want him to hurt the way I've hurt. But I don't want my son to grow up knowing his father was murdered because of us. That's a weight Liam shouldn't have to carry. Enzo stood and moved beside her. What if I can make him suffer without killing him? What if I can ensure he lives every day in fear, knowing that one wrong move and everything he has vanishes? Clara turned to look at him. Is that possible? Mrs. Jensen, Clara, I've been in this business for 20 years. I know exactly how to destroy a man without taking his life. Sometimes that's a far worse punishment than death. A long silence stretched between them. Finally, Clara nodded. Okay, but I have one condition. Name it. When this is over, whatever happens, I want out. New identities for me and Liam. A new city. A real fresh start where Derek and his cop friends can't ever find us. Already in progress. New documents will be ready in 3 days. Clara's eyes widened. You are already planning this? I don't do anything halfway. When I commit to protecting someone, I see it through to the end. And what do you get out of it? Enzo smiled slightly. The satisfaction of knowing that for once I used my resources to help someone who deserved it, instead of just expanding my empire. That's enough. Clara studied him for another long moment, then did something Enzo didn't expect. She reached out and squeezed his hand briefly. Thank you, she whispered. I don't agree with your methods, I don't approve of what you do, but thank you for caring when no one else did. Before Enzo could respond, his phone buzzed. A text from Vincent. Brennan agreed to meet. Tomorrow, 1 p.m., Riverside Diner. Coming alone. Enzo looked at Clara. Your husband's partner wants to talk. Tomorrow I'm going to make him understand that supporting Derek was the worst mistake of his career. After that, Derek will be completely alone. No backup, no protection. Just a man facing the consequences of his choices. And then we wait. See if he's smart enough to walk away or stupid enough to fight back. Clara's voice was barely audible. And if he fights back? Enzo's expression hardened. Then I'll show him exactly why people fear the Morelli name. The Riverside Diner sat on the edge of the Passaic River, a chrome and neon relic from the 1950s that had somehow survived gentrification. At 12:47 p.m. on a Wednesday, it was half full with construction workers on lunch break and retirees nursing coffee and reading newspapers. The perfect place for a conversation that needed to look innocent. Enzo arrived 10 minutes early, as always. He chose a booth in the back corner with a clear view of the entrance and both exits. Marcus sat 3 booths away, pretending to read a menu while his eyes constantly scanned the room. Joey was outside in the parking lot, monitoring anyone who approached. Detective Mike Brennan walked through the door at exactly 1 p.m. He wore civilian clothes, jeans and a jacket, trying to look casual, but his cop posture gave him away. Rigid shoulders, eyes cataloging every face in the room, hand instinctively hovering near his hip even though Enzo knew he wouldn't be carrying inside. Vincent had been very clear in his message. Come unarmed and alone, or don't come at all. Brennan spotted Enzo and walked over, sliding into the booth across from him. Up close, Enzo could see the stress etched into the detective's face. Dark circles under his eyes, a muscle twitching in his jaw. This was a man being squeezed from both sides. Morelli, Brennan said, his voice controlled but tight. Detective Brennan, thank you for coming. Like I had a choice. Your message made it pretty clear what would happen if I didn't. A waitress approached, a woman in her 60s with tired eyes and a practiced smile. What can I get you boys? Coffee black, Brennan said. Same, Enzo added, and 2 slices of apple pie. After the waitress left, Brennan leaned forward. I don't want pie. I want to know what the hell you want from me. Relax, detective. The pie's excellent here. My father used to bring me when I was a kid. Enzo's voice was conversational, almost friendly. Did you know this place has been here since 1952? Same family running it for 3 generations. That's the kind of legacy that matters. I'm not here for a history lesson. No, you're here because you're scared, and you should be. Enzo's tone didn't change, but his eyes went cold. You've been protecting a wife-beater for how long? 3 years? 4? Brennan's jaw clenched. Derek's my partner. I was trying to help him get his life together. By making his victims disappear from police reports? By threatening Clara Jensen when she tried to file charges? That's not helping, detective. That's enabling. That's being complicit. You don't understand the pressure. I understand perfectly. Your daughter Katie needs insulin. Good insurance doesn't cover everything. The medical bills are crushing you. So when Paulie Rizzo offered you a little extra income for looking the other way occasionally, you took it. I would have made the same choice. Brennan's face went white. How do you know about Katie? I know everything about you, detective. I know your mortgage payment is $2,300 a month and you're 2 payments behind. I know your wife Sarah works part-time at the library making $14 an hour. I know your older daughter Melissa wants to go to Princeton next year, but you haven't told her there's no money for it. Enzo paused as the waitress returned with coffee and pie. Once she was gone, he continued. I also know you're a good father who made bad choices trying to provide for his family. Then why are you threatening me? I'm not threatening you. I'm offering you a way out. Enzo pushed one of the pie plates toward Brennan. Eat. We're just 2 guys having lunch, remember? Brennan didn't touch the pie. What do you want? I want you to cut Derek Jensen loose. Completely. No more covering for him. No more making problems disappear. When Internal Affairs starts looking into him, and they will, you cooperate fully. Give them everything. He's my partner. There's a code. The code doesn't apply to men who beat their wives in front of their children. Enzo's voice hardened. You want to talk about loyalty? Where was Derek's loyalty when he was using your protection to terrorize Clara? Where was his code when he put a 5-year-old boy in a position where he felt he had to defend his mother from a grown man? Brennan looked away, his hands tightening around the coffee cup. I told him. After the last incident, I told him if it happened again, I was done. But you weren't done. You're here now, still covering for him. Because he's desperate. He's got gambling debts, his career's hanging by a thread, and now he's talking crazy. Saying he's going to find Clara no matter what. That she's his wife, and you can't keep her from him. Enzo leaned back slowly. Is that what he's saying? Yeah. I tried to talk sense into him, but he's not listening. He thinks because he's a cop, he's untouchable, that even you won't really do anything to him. Derek Jensen is profoundly mistaken. Enzo took a sip of his coffee. Here's what's going to happen, detective. You're going to go back to your precinct and you're going to start creating distance from your partner. Subtle at first. Request a schedule change. Take some personal days. Make it clear to anyone paying attention that you and Derek are no longer tight. And then when the hammer drops on him, and it will, you're going to be clean, uninvolved. Just a good cop who got partnered with a bad apple. Brennan's eyes narrowed. What hammer? That's not your concern. Your concern is protecting your family. Because here's the thing, detective, I meant what I said on the phone. I could destroy your life. Send your financial records to Internal Affairs. Send evidence of your side work with Rizzo to the FBI. Make sure every cop in New Jersey knows you're compromised. Brennan's face flushed with anger. So you are threatening me? No, I'm giving you context. Enzo finally took a bite of his pie. But here's the other side of this. You do what I ask. Cut Derek loose. Cooperate when the time comes. And I'll make your problems go away. What problems? Enzo pulled an envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table. Inside is a bank receipt for $60,000 deposited into an account under your wife's maiden name, untraceable, enough to pay off your gambling debts to Rizzo, catch up on your mortgage, and put some aside for Katie's medical expenses. Brennan stared at the envelope like it might explode. This is a bribe. This is a gift. From someone who understands that good men sometimes make bad choices when they're desperate. I'm giving you a chance to make better choices going forward. And if I don't take it, then I'll assume you've chosen Derek Jensen's friendship over your family's well-being, and I'll act accordingly. Enzo's voice went quiet. But I don't think you're that stupid, detective. I think you're a father who got in over his head and needs a lifeline. I'm offering you that lifeline. Take it. The booth fell silent except for the ambient noise of the diner, the clink of silverware, muted conversations, the hiss of the coffee maker. Brennan stared at the envelope, his internal struggle visible on his face. Finally, he spoke. If I take this, if I do what you want, Clara stays safe? You're not going to use her as leverage or... Clara Jensen is under my protection. That means she's untouchable. By Derek. By anyone. She and her son are going to disappear soon. New identities. New life. Completely off the grid. Derek will never find them. And Derek himself? Depends on his choices. If he's smart, he walks away. If not, Enzo shrugged. Natural consequences. Brennan slowly reached out and took the envelope, slipping it inside his jacket. I want to be clear about something. I'm not doing this because I'm scared of you. I'm doing it because you're right. I enabled Derek. I told myself I was helping him, but really I was just protecting my own ass. Clara deserved better. That kid deserved better. Then give them better. Cut Derek off. Let justice actually happen for once. Brennan stood, throwing a $10 bill on the table even though he hadn't touched his coffee or pie. We're done here? One more thing. Enzo's voice stopped him. Derek's going to come to you when his world starts falling apart. He's going to ask for help for old time's sake, for the friendship you used to have. What are you going to tell him? Brennan looked at Enzo for a long moment. I'm going to tell him that some bridges burn themselves, and the smart thing is to let them. After Brennan left, Marcus slid into the booth. That looked cozy. We buying cops now? We're not buying anything, we're investing in outcomes. Enzo finished his pie. Brennan's not a bad man, just a weak one. Weakness can be leveraged. And Jensen? Let's give him enough rope to hang himself. I want continued surveillance. Every phone call, every movement, everyone he contacts. If he so much as thinks about going after Clara, I want to know about it before he takes his first step. Marcus nodded. Vincent's been monitoring his apartment. Guy's been making calls all morning, mostly to other cops, feeling them out about helping him find Clara. Nobody's biting. Because word's gotten out that she's under my protection. Nobody wants that kind of heat. Enzo pulled out his phone and typed a quick message to Angela. How's our guest? The response came immediately. Restless. Worried. Asking about her husband. Enzo stood, dropping $40 on the table. I'm going back to West Orange. Stay on Brennan. Make sure he does what he promised. And if he doesn't, then the $60,000 becomes evidence of bribery and corruption, and his career ends anyway. But I don't think it'll come to that. Brennan's made his choice. He'll follow through. At the safe house, Enzo found Clara in the backyard, watching Liam play on an old swing set that came with the property. The boy was laughing, pumping his legs to go higher, lost in a moment of pure childhood joy that had probably been rare in his short life. Clara turned when she heard Enzo approach. She'd been crying. Her good eye was red-rimmed, but she quickly wiped her face. He's happy, she said quietly. I haven't seen him this happy in months. Angela said you were asking about Derek. I keep waiting for him to show up, to burst through that door with his badge and his anger and take everything away again. Clara's voice trembled. How do I stop being afraid when fear's been my constant companion for 3 years? Enzo stood beside her, both of them watching Liam swing. Fear's a survival mechanism. It kept you alert, kept you ready to protect your son. But you're safe now. That's not just words, Clara, that's a fact. Derek can't reach you here. You met with his partner today. How did it go? Detective Brennan is no longer a problem. He's cutting ties with Derek as we speak. Clara's breath caught. What did you do to him? I gave him a choice between his family and his friendship with your husband. He chose his family, that's all. You paid him off. I solved his problem so he could solve mine. It's business, Clara. Nothing personal. She turned to face him, and for the first time since they'd met, her expression held something other than fear or exhaustion. It was curiosity, maybe even concern. Don't you ever get tired? She asked. Tired of what? This. The constant manipulation, the threats, the power plays. Don't you ever just want to be normal? Enzo considered the question. Normal. What did that even mean for someone like him? I stopped being normal when I was 14 and watched my father execute a man in our basement for stealing from us. By the time I was 18, I'd already made my first kill. Normal isn't an option when you're born into this life, but you could walk away. You have money, resources. You could go anywhere, be anyone. And do what? Pretend I'm not who I am? Pretend the past 20 years didn't happen? Enzo shook his head. This is who I am, Clara. I'm not a good man playing at being bad. I'm a bad man who occasionally does good things. There's a difference. I don't think you're as bad as you want people to believe. Don't mistake pragmatism for goodness. I'm helping you because it serves my interests, because it makes me feel less empty inside. That's not altruism. That's selfishness with better packaging. Clara smiled slightly, the first real smile he'd seen from her. You're a terrible liar when it comes to yourself. Before Enzo could respond, Liam came running over, breathless and excited. Mr. Morelli, did you see how high I went? I was practically flying. I saw. Very impressive. You're quite the daredevil. What's a daredevil? Someone brave enough to take risks, like you, protecting your mom. Liam's face grew serious. Is my dad going to find us here? The question hung in the air like smoke. Clara knelt down, pulling her son close. No, baby. We're safe here. Mr. Morelli is making sure of it. Promise? Clara looked up at Enzo, a silent plea in her eyes. I promise, Enzo said, and meant it. Your dad can't hurt you or your mom anymore. I won't let that happen. Liam studied him with the intense scrutiny only children possessed. Then he nodded, apparently satisfied, and ran back to the swings. You just made a promise to a 5-year-old, Clara said softly. That's a sacred thing. You know that, right? I know. And if Derek does come? If he somehow finds us? Enzo's voice went cold. Then I'll keep my promise to your son by making sure your husband never threatens anyone again. Whatever that requires. Clara stood, brushing dirt from her jeans. I should hate you for talking like that, for being so casual about violence, but I can't. Because you're the first person in years who's actually made me feel safe. That's the Stockholm Syndrome talking. No, it's gratitude. Don't diminish it by being cynical. She hesitated, then added, I know what you are, Enzo. I'm not naive. But I also know that sometimes the only thing that stops a bad man is someone scarier. Thank you for being scarier. Enzo's phone buzzed before he could respond. A text from Vincent. Problem. Jensen just withdrew $10,000 from his savings. Bank teller says he looked agitated. Something's happening. Enzo's jaw tightened. I need to go. Stay inside. Keep Liam close. I'm doubling the security detail. What's wrong? Your husband just made a move. I need to find out what he's planning before it becomes a problem. Clara grabbed his arm. Enzo, be careful. Derek's dangerous when he's cornered. So am I. That's the difference between us. I'm better at it. As Enzo walked back through the house, he called Vincent. Talk to me. What's Jensen doing with $10,000 in cash? Don't know yet, but I can guess. Probably buying information or hiring help. Want me to intercept him? No. Let him make his move. I want to see how stupid he's willing to be. But keep eyes on him constantly. If he gets within 5 miles of this location, I want to know immediately. You think he's crazy enough to come after her directly? I think he's arrogant enough to believe his badge makes him invincible. We're about to teach him otherwise. Enzo ended the call and looked back at the house. Through the window, he could see Clara standing with her arms wrapped around herself, watching Liam play. She looked fragile and strong at the same time. A survivor who'd been knocked down so many times but kept getting back up. His father's voice echoed in his memory. Never let them see you care. The moment they think you have a heart, they'll tear it out. But maybe, Enzo thought, having something worth protecting made you stronger, not weaker. Maybe caring about Clara Jensen and her son was the most dangerous thing he could do. Dangerous to anyone who threatened them. Derek Jensen was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Enzo pulled out his phone and made another call. "Franco, it's me. I need you to reach out to Paulie Rizzo. Tell him I want information about any contracts taken out in the last 24 hours, specifically anything involving a woman and child." "You think Jensen's hiring muscle?" "I think he's desperate and stupid. That combination makes men do predictable things. If he's putting money on the street, I want to know about it before someone gets hurt." "On it, boss." As Enzo drove away from the safe house, his mind was already 3 steps ahead, planning contingencies and counter-moves. Derek Jensen thought he was a hunter tracking down his escaped prey. He was about to discover he'd become the prey instead. And in Enzo Morelli's world, prey didn't survive long. Derek Jensen sat in his car outside a warehouse in Elizabeth, New Jersey, watching the clock on his dashboard tick toward 9 p.m. The $10,000 in cash sat in a duffel bag on the passenger seat, his entire savings, gone in one desperate gamble. He'd spent the last 2 days making calls, feeling out contacts, trying to find someone willing to help him locate Clara. Every cop he'd reached out to had suddenly become unavailable. Every favor he'd tried to call in had been politely declined. It was like someone had poisoned the well, turned him radioactive overnight. Finally, a guy he'd busted 3 years ago, Tommy the Rat Castellano, had reached out. Tommy said he knew people who specialized in finding people who didn't want to be found. For the right price, they could track down anyone. Derek hadn't asked questions. He'd just agreed to the meeting. Now, sitting in the darkness, watching shadows move inside the warehouse, Derek felt the first real flutter of doubt. This wasn't how cops operated. This was how criminals operated. But what choice did he have? Clara was his wife. Liam was his son. Some mob boss didn't get to just take them because he felt like playing hero. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Come inside." Alone. Derek grabbed the duffel bag and stepped out of his car. The November wind cut through his jacket as he crossed the empty lot. The warehouse door was slightly ajar, spilling yellow light across the cracked pavement. He pushed it open and stepped inside. The space was massive. High ceilings, concrete floors, old machinery pushed against the walls. In the center, under a single hanging work light, stood 3 men. Derek recognized Tommy immediately, short, wiry, with a nervous energy that had earned him his nickname. The other 2 men were strangers. One was huge, easily 6'5", with the build of someone who'd done hard time and come out harder. The other was smaller but somehow more threatening. Dead eyes, expensive suit, the kind of guy who killed people for a living and slept fine afterward. "Officer Jensen," Tommy said, his voice echoing in the empty space. "Thanks for coming." "Let's skip the pleasantries, Tommy. Can you find my wife or not?" The man in the suit smiled. "We can find anyone, officer, but first we need to discuss terms." "I've got 10,000 cash, that's what Tommy said. 10,000 is the starting point, but this isn't a simple locate job anymore." The man pulled out his phone and showed Derek a photo. It was Clara walking with Liam in what looked like a backyard. "Your wife is currently under the protection of Enzo Morelli. That changes the price considerably." Derek's stomach dropped. "How did you get that photo?" "Because I work for Mr. Morelli, and he wanted me to see exactly how stupid you were willing to be." Before Derek could react, the big man moved with shocking speed, grabbing Derek's arms and forcing them behind his back. The duffel bag fell to the floor with a heavy thud. "What the hell? I'm a cop. You can't..." The man in the suit laughed. "You're not a cop right now, Jensen. You're just a guy who made terrible choices and kept making them even when given multiple chances to stop." Tommy backed away, his face apologetic. "Sorry, Derek. Morelli pays better than you do. Nothing personal." The big man forced Derek to his knees. Pain shot through his shoulders as his arms were wrenched back further. He tried to fight, but it was like struggling against steel bars. The man in the suit crouched down to Derek's eye level. "My name is Franco Morelli. That's right, Enzo's cousin. And I'm going to explain something to you very carefully. Are you listening?" Derek's mind raced. This was a setup. The whole thing had been a trap. But how? How had Morelli known? "You had a choice," Franco continued. "Walk away. Except that your wife and son were gone. Start over. But you couldn't do that, could you? Your ego wouldn't let you. So you withdrew your savings, called up a known criminal, and tried to hire someone to find Clara so you could what? Drag her back home? Beat her into submission again? Kill her for embarrassing you? I wasn't going to... Franco slapped him across the face. Not hard enough to cause real damage, but hard enough to shock him into silence. Don't insult my intelligence. We've been listening to your calls. We know exactly what you told Tommy, that you just wanted to talk to Clara, make her see reason, teach her about consequences for running away. Those were your exact words. Derek's face burned with humiliation and rage. This is illegal. You're assaulting a police officer, and you're attempting to hire criminals to help you stalk your abused wife. I think we're both in murky legal waters here, don't you? Franco stood. Here's what's going to happen now. Dominic here is going to take you on a little drive. You're going to see some things, experience some things, and then you're going to make a final choice about whether you want to keep pushing this or accept reality. What things? What are you talking about? Franco smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You'll see. Consider it an educational experience, a chance to understand exactly what it feels like to be powerless, afraid, at someone else's mercy. The big man, Dominic, hauled Derek to his feet and started dragging him toward a back door. Derek tried to resist, tried to plant his feet, but Dominic's strength was overwhelming. You can't do this, Derek shouted. People know I'm here. If I disappear, you told your partner you were taking a few personal days, Franco called after him. You told your neighbors you might visit family in Pennsylvania. You've been isolating yourself all week. If you disappear, Officer Jensen, it'll be days before anyone even notices, and by then you'll have made your choice about your future. The back door slammed shut behind them, cutting off Derek's protests. At the safe house in West Orange, Clara sat in the living room with Angela, trying to focus on the book she was reading. But the words kept blurring together, her mind unable to settle. It had been 4 days since Enzo had brought her here. 4 days of safety, of sleeping without fear, of watching Liam laugh and play like a normal child. It should have felt like paradise after years of walking on eggshells. But Clara couldn't shake the feeling that she was living in the eye of a hurricane. That Derek was out there somewhere, planning, scheming, and that eventually the storm would reach them. You're worried about him, Angela said, not looking up from her knitting. Is it that obvious? You've checked that window 17 times in the last hour, and you jump every time a car drives by. Angela's needles clicked steadily. Mr. Morelli has been doing this for a long time, dear. He knows how to keep people safe. But Derek's a cop. He has resources, connections, had, past tense. Angela finally looked up, her expression gentle but firm. From what I understand, those connections have dried up remarkably fast. Turns out nobody wants to help a dirty cop once the protection's gone. Clara stood and walked to the window again, pulling back the curtain slightly. The street was quiet. A black SUV sat parked 3 houses down. Enzo's security team, she'd learned. They changed shifts every 8 hours like clockwork. I don't understand why Enzo's doing all this, Clara said quietly. I'm nobody, just a waitress with bad taste in men. Why does he care? Angela set down her knitting. Have you asked him? He gave me some story about his mother, about seeing someone beaten when he was young, but it feels like there's more to it. Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. Angela stood and joined Clara at the window. I've known Enzo since he was 7 years old. Watched him grow up in a world that taught him to be hard, to never show weakness, to treat people like chess pieces. But underneath all that, there's still the boy who cried when his goldfish died, who used to leave food out for stray cats, who stopped his father from beating a servant once and took the beating himself. Clara looked at the older woman in surprise. He did that? He was 12. His father wanted to teach him that mercy was weakness. Instead, Enzo learned that protecting people weaker than yourself was worth the pain. Angela smiled sadly. His father tried to beat the humanity out of him, but it's still there, buried deep. You just reminded him it existed. Before Clara could respond, headlights swept across the front of the house. A car pulled into the driveway, Enzo's Mercedes. Clara's heart rate kicked up as she watched him step out, his expression unreadable in the dim light. He came through the front door a moment later, his suit jacket missing, his shirt sleeves rolled up. He looked tired but alert, like a soldier coming off a long patrol. Is Liam asleep? He asked. Put him down an hour ago, Angela replied. He wanted you to read him a story, but I told him you'd be here tomorrow night. I'll make it up to him. Enzo turned to Clara. We need to talk, privately. Angela gathered her knitting. I'll be in the kitchen if you need me." Once they were alone, Enzo gestured for Clara to sit. She did, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. He sat across from her, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "Your husband made a move tonight," he said without preamble. Clara's breath caught. "What kind of move?" "He tried to hire people to find you, withdrew $10,000 from his savings, and met with some associates of mine who were pretending to be freelance trackers." "Oh God. It was a setup. I wanted to see how far he'd go." "The answer is all the way. He was fully prepared to pay criminals to hunt you down so he could talk to you about your marriage." Clara felt sick. "Where is he now?" "Being taught a lesson about consequences. Don't worry, he's alive and will stay that way. But by tomorrow morning, Derek Jensen is going to understand what it feels like to be completely powerless, to be at someone else's mercy, to be afraid." "What are you doing to him?" Enzo met her eyes. "Nothing permanent, nothing that will leave marks, but everything that will leave scars in his mind. When we're done, the thought of coming after you will terrify him more than anything else in his life." Clara stood abruptly, pacing the room. "This is insane. You're torturing him. I'm giving him a taste of what he gave you for 3 years. The fear, the helplessness, the knowledge that pain could come at any moment and there's nothing you can do to stop it. 2 wrongs don't make a right. No, but they make things even." Enzo's voice hardened. "Clara, you wanted him to suffer. You said so yourself. Well, this is what suffering looks like when it's controlled and purposeful. I'm not killing him. I'm not maiming him. I'm breaking something much more important, his sense of invincibility." Clara stopped pacing and wrapped her arms around herself. "And then what? He comes back more angry, more dangerous." "He doesn't come back. By the time my people are done with him, Derek will be too terrified to even think your name, let alone act on it." Enzo stood and walked closer to her. "I know this is hard to watch from the outside, but you need to trust me. This is the only language men like Derek understand. How do you know he won't just retaliate, come after you? Because I'm going to give him a way out. A choice that lets him keep his life and his freedom, as long as he never comes near you again." "What choice?" Enzo pulled out his phone and showed her a document. "These are divorce papers. Clean, simple, uncontested. You get full custody of Liam. No visitation rights for Derek. He agrees to disappear from your lives completely. In exchange, the evidence we have about his abuse, his gambling debts, his corruption, all of it disappears too. He gets to keep his job, his reputation, and walk away." Clara stared at the papers. "And if he doesn't sign? Then all that evidence goes to the FBI, Internal Affairs, and every news outlet in New Jersey. His career ends. His life ends. He'll be lucky if he doesn't end up in prison. That's blackmail. That's justice. Real justice. Not the broken system that failed you the first dozen times you tried to get help." Clara sank back onto the couch, overwhelmed. Part of her wanted to feel guilty about what was happening to Derek. But a bigger part, the part that still flinched at sudden movements, that still woke up from nightmares of his fists, felt something like relief. "When will this be over?" she asked quietly. "Tomorrow. By noon, Derek will either sign those papers or seal his own fate. Either way, you'll be free. And the new identities, the fresh start, ready in 48 hours. New names, new social security numbers, complete histories. I have a house lined up for you in Vermont. Small town, good schools, far enough away that nobody from your old life will ever find you." Vermont. Clara tried to imagine it. Snow-covered mountains, quiet streets, a life where she could breathe without fear. "I've never been to Vermont. You'll like it. Clean air, friendly people, low crime. Liam can grow up normal. You can be whoever you want to be." Tears welled in Clara's eyes. "I don't know how to thank you. I don't even know if thank you is enough for what you've done." Enzo sat beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. "You don't owe me anything, Clara. Helping you, it's helped me too. Reminded me that power can be used for something other than building empires. Will I see you again? After we leave?" The question hung between them. Enzo was quiet for a long moment. "It's better if you don't," he said finally. "Clean breaks are cleaner. You start over completely. No connections to your old life, including me. But you'll know where we are. I'll know you're safe. That's all that matters." Clara reached out and took his hand, a gesture that surprised them both. "You're a good man, Enzo Morelli. I know you don't believe that, but you are. Good men don't do the things I've done. Good men protect people who can't protect themselves. That's what you've done for me and Liam. That makes you good in the ways that matter." Before Enzo could respond, his phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. "Package delivered. Subject is receptive to negotiation. Recommend meeting tomorrow a.m. to finalize. Enzo stood. I need to go. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Enzo, Clara called as he headed for the door. He turned back. Whatever happens with Derek, thank you for giving me my life back. He nodded once, then disappeared into the night. In an abandoned building in the Ironbound district, Derek Jensen sat tied to a chair in the middle of an empty room. His face was bruised, not from being hit, but from where Dominic had let him fall a few times. His nice clothes were ruined, torn, and dirty. He'd been here for 6 hours. 6 hours of psychological torture that left no physical marks but carved deep into his psyche. They'd blindfolded him for the drive, so he had no idea where he was. They'd played recordings, sounds of guns being loaded, knives being sharpened, men discussing the best ways to dispose of bodies. They'd held something cold against his temple that felt like a gun barrel, counting down from 10 and stopping at 1. They'd made him believe more than once that he was about to die, and then they'd done nothing, just left him sitting in darkness, his imagination filling in the blanks with every horror movie scenario he'd ever seen. Now, with dawn approaching, Franco Morelli walked back into the room and removed Derek's blindfold. Derek blinked against the sudden light, his eyes bloodshot and wild. "Good morning, Officer Jensen," Franco said pleasantly. "How are we feeling?" Derek's voice came out as a croak. "Please, I just want to go home." Home. Interesting word choice. See, Clara used to think of your apartment as home, until you made it a prison, made it a place where she was terrified every single day. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll leave her alone, I swear. Words are cheap, Derek. We need insurance. Something that guarantees you'll keep that promise." Franco pulled out the divorce papers and a pen. "Sign these. Give Clara full custody. Agree to never contact her or Liam again. Do that, and you walk out of here. Your job stays intact. Your life continues. The evidence we have about your abuse, your corruption, your gambling, all of it disappears. And if I don't sign?" Franco's smile was ice cold. "Then you stay here until you do. And every hour you refuse, things get a little worse. We have ways of breaking men without leaving marks, Derek. Ways that make you beg for the mercy of a simple beating. Do you want to find out what those ways are?" Derek looked at the papers, his hand shaking. Everything in him wanted to fight, to refuse, to maintain some control. But the last 6 hours had shown him the truth. He had no control. Not anymore. Enzo Morelli owned him completely. "If I sign, you'll really let me go. You'll be driven back to your car. The 10,000 will be returned to you. And you'll never hear from us again. As long as you never think about Clara Jensen again. How do I know you'll keep your word? Because unlike you, Officer Jensen, I'm a man of honor. When I make a promise, I keep it." Franco held out the pen. "Choose, freedom or destruction. It's really that simple." Derek took the pen with trembling fingers. He looked at the papers, looked at the words that would sever him from Clara and Liam forever. Part of him still wanted to fight, still wanted to assert his dominance. But then he remembered the cold metal against his temple, the countdown, the certainty that he was going to die. He signed his name. Franco smiled and took the papers. "Wise choice. Dominic will drive you back to your car. And Derek, if you ever come near Clara or Liam again, what happened here will seem like a pleasant memory. Understand?" Derek nodded, too broken to speak. As Dominic cut him free and led him away, Franco pulled out his phone and texted Enzo. "Signed and sealed. Jensen's done. Package is being delivered back to Origin." The response came immediately. "Good. Make sure he understands this is permanent." Franco looked at Derek's retreating figure. Shoulders slumped, spirit crushed, a shell of the arrogant cop who'd walked into that warehouse 12 hours ago. Message received and understood. 3 months later. The town of Stowe, Vermont looked like something out of a postcard in late February. Snow covered the mountains in pristine white. Smoke curled from chimneys of colonial-style houses, and the main street was lined with small shops that had been there for generations. Population, 4,314. The kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors and strangers were noticed immediately, which made it perfect. Clara Murphy, her new legal name, stood on the front porch of her modest 2-story house, watching Liam build a snowman in the front yard. He wore a red puffy jacket Angela had bought him before they'd left New Jersey, his cheeks flushed pink from the cold, his laughter ringing clear in the crisp air. He looked like a different child. No more dark circles under his eyes. No more flinching at raised voices. No more trying to be the protector when he should have just been allowed to be a kid. "Mommy, look, I gave him a carrot nose," Liam called out. "That's perfect, baby. Very handsome snowman. The transformation hadn't just been Liam's. Clara barely recognized herself anymore either. She'd gained 15 pounds, healthy weight she'd lost during the years of stress and fear. Her hair had grown out and she'd dyed it darker, from blonde to auburn. She wore clothes that actually fit instead of baggy things meant to hide bruises. She smiled, really smiled. She'd gotten a job at the local library 3 weeks after arriving. The pay wasn't great, but the work was peaceful. She spent her days helping people find books, organizing shelves, and occasionally reading to children during story hour. Normal work, safe work. The house had come fully furnished, paid for through a trust fund Enzo had established under her new identity. She'd tried to refuse, tried to tell him he'd done enough, but he'd been insistent. Consider it an investment in the future, he'd said during their last conversation. One less person in the world who has to be afraid. That conversation had been 2.5 months ago. She hadn't heard from him since. Clara told herself it was better this way. Clean breaks, like he'd said. She was Clara Murphy now, not Clara Jensen. Her old life was dead and buried, including the complicated feelings she'd developed for the man who'd saved her. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her sister Rachel, one of the few people who knew her new identity and location. "How's Vermont treating you? Kids behaving?" Clara smiled and typed back, "Vermont's perfect. Liam's thriving. I'm happy. Really happy. Good. You deserve it. Love you, sis. Love you too." Clara pocketed her phone and was about to call Liam inside for hot chocolate when a black car turned onto her street. Her heart immediately kicked into high gear, old instincts dying hard. But the car drove past her house without slowing, just another resident heading home. She forced herself to breathe. Derek couldn't find her here. The divorce had been finalized 6 weeks ago. According to the private investigator Enzo had keeping tabs on him, Derek had taken a transfer to a precinct in Atlantic City and was keeping his head down. Apparently his gambling had stopped too. Fear was a powerful motivator. "Mommy, can we make snow angels?" Liam asked, already flopping backward into the snow. 5 more minutes, then we need to get you warmed up. Deal? Deal! Clara went inside to start the hot chocolate, pulling off her boots in the mudroom. The house still felt surreal sometimes. The safety of it, the quiet, the knowledge that she could go to sleep without wondering if tonight would be the night Derek finally went too far. She was pouring milk into a pot when the doorbell rang. Clara's hand froze. Nobody knew she lived here except Rachel, Angela, and Enzo's people. The mailman never rang. Deliveries were left on the porch. She moved to the front window and carefully looked out. A man stood on her porch. Tall, expensive coat, dark hair showing gray at the temples. Even from behind, she recognized the posture. Enzo. Clara's heart did something complicated in her chest. She opened the door and he turned to face her. He looked different. Tired, maybe. There were new lines around his eyes. But he was still Enzo Morelli, still carrying that aura of controlled power that made him impossible to ignore. "Hi," he said simply. "Hi." Clara's voice came out breathless. "What are you doing here?" "I was in Boston for business. Thought I'd take a detour and check on you. Make sure you'd settled in okay. Boston's 3 hours away. That's a long detour." "I had the time." His eyes moved past her to where Liam was making snow angels in the yard. "He looks good, happy." "He is. We both are." And Clara stepped out onto the porch, closing the door behind her. "You didn't have to come all this way. You could have just called. I wanted to see for myself. Make sure you were really safe. Really okay." They stood in silence for a moment, breath misting in the cold air between them. "How's business?" Clara asked, for lack of anything better to say. Enzo smiled slightly. "Business is business. Same problems, different day, though things have been quieter since." He trailed off. "Since you helped me." "Yeah. Word got around that I was willing to go to war over a domestic violence case. Changed some perceptions. Made people think twice about certain behaviors." Clara studied his face. "You started something, didn't you? Something bigger than just helping me." Enzo looked at her fully then, and she saw something in his eyes she hadn't expected. Vulnerability. "After we got you out, I couldn't stop thinking about how many other women are trapped like you were. How many kids are growing up in fear like Liam did. So I made some calls, set up a fund, started working with shelters, protection services, lawyers who specialize in domestic violence cases." Clara's eyes widened. "You created a foundation?" "Not officially. Nothing with my name on it. But money flows where it needs to go. Women who need to disappear get new identities." Abusers who think they're untouchable get reminders that they're not. It's been 3 months, and we've helped 17 families so far. Tears welled in Clara's eyes. Enzo, don't make this into something noble. I'm still who I am. I still do terrible things to terrible people. But at least now I'm also doing something good. You showed me I could. Before Clara could respond, Liam's voice rang out from the yard. Mommy, who's that? They both turned to see Liam standing in the snow looking curiously at Enzo. That's... Clara hesitated, then made a decision. That's an old friend. Come say hi. Liam trudged through the snow, stopping at the bottom of the porch steps. He studied Enzo with the serious expression he sometimes got when trying to place a memory. I know you, Liam said slowly. You're the man from before, when we were scared. That's right, Enzo said, kneeling down to be at eye level. I'm Enzo. How are you doing, Liam? I'm good. We live here now and it snows all the time and I have friends at school and nobody yells anymore. The words tumbled out in a rush of pure happiness. That sounds perfect. I'm really glad you're happy. Are you Mommy's boyfriend? Clara nearly choked. Liam! What? Mrs. Henderson at the library says everyone needs someone to care about them. Do you care about Mommy? Enzo glanced at Clara, something unreadable in his expression, then looked back at Liam. Yes, I care about your Mommy very much and about you too. Then you should come inside for hot chocolate. Mommy makes the best kind with the little marshmallows. I don't want to intrude, Enzo started. Please? Liam's eyes were wide and hopeful. You helped us. That means you're family, and family stays for hot chocolate. Enzo looked at Clara, a silent question in his eyes. She should say no, should maintain the distance, should let him leave and go back to his dangerous life while she built her safe one. Instead, she heard herself say, come inside. It's too cold to stand out here.